Most people think aging happens because the body breaks down. But for many of us, it actually starts earlier than that. It starts with what we tell ourselves. Things like, "This is harder for me now. My recovery isn't what it used to be. That's easier when you're younger." These don't sound negative. They sound realistic. They sound responsible. But over time, they create a pattern. And that pattern quietly teaches the body what to expect. This is something I've been thinking about deeply through the lens of ageless beauty. Because ageless beauty was never about looking younger. It's about not limiting yourself before your body actually asks you to. Most people don't age because the body suddenly fails. They age because they slowly stop inviting the body into life. They stop expecting responsiveness. They stop exploring new movement. They stop speaking to themselves as someone who is still capable of adapting. And the body, which is deeply responsive, follows that lead. This isn't philosophy. It's been studied. In the late 1970s, a Harvard psychologist named Ellen Langer conducted a study that challenged how we think about aging. At the time, the idea that mindset and identity could influence physical aging was considered fringe. In fact, the results were so unexpected that she hesitated to publish them. Not because the study lacked rigor, but because it questioned the belief that aging is fixed and inevitable. Here's what she did. She gathered a group of men in their late 70s, some nearing 80, and brought them to a retreat. There were no supplements, no special diets, no exercise programs, no medical interventions. Instead, she recreated the environment of an earlier chapter of their lives, about 20 years prior. The furniture reflected that era. The magazines were from that time. The music, the radio broadcasts, the conversations, all aligned with that period. But this is the key part. The men were not asked to remember the past. They were asked to live as if it were happening now. They spoke in the present tense. They carried their own bags. They were not treated as fragile or dependent. They were treated as capable, autonomous men. Before the retreat, their bodies were measured. And after just 1 week, they were measured again. What changed was not subjective. It was physical. Their posture improved. Men who had been hunched forward stood taller, not because they were instructed to, but because their bodies reorganized. Their strength and flexibility increased. Grip strength improved. Movement became easier and less guarded. Their cognitive performance improved on standardized tests, memory, attention, responsiveness, and unexpectedly, their eyesight improved. Some of the men were told their glasses prescriptions were no longer correct, not because their vision worsened, but because it improved. Even their fingers appeared longer. Not because bones grew, but because inflammation in the joints decreased, allowing the fingers to extend more fully. Independent observers who didn't know the men or the experiment were shown before and after photos and consistently rated them as looking younger at the end of the week. Nothing external changed. No intervention fixed their bodies. What changed was how the men related to themselves. They stopped behaving like old men, and their biology followed. This is where most people misunderstand aging. They assume the body leads and the mind follows. But in reality, the relationship works both ways, and often the conversation comes first. The body is always listening, not just to food, not just to movement, not just to supplements, but to expectation, to identity, to tone. When you say, "I'm too old for this," your body hears withdrawal. When you say, "That's not for me anymore," your body hears contraction. And over time, the body complies, not because it's broken, but because it's responsive. Ageless beauty is about restoring that responsiveness. It's about staying in relationship. This doesn't mean ignoring pain. It doesn't mean forcing youth. It doesn't mean pretending time doesn't exist. It means refusing premature decline. It means not narrating your body's limitations before it has actually reached them. Because movement is not performance. Movement is communication. Posture is communication. Breath is communication. Touch, care, ritual, communication. When you move gently but consistently, you are telling your body, "I still believe in you." When you try something new, a new practice, a new rhythm, a new way of caring for yourself, you are telling your body, "We're not done." This is why ageless beauty is not cosmetic. It's relational. It's the ongoing decision to stay present with yourself, physically, emotionally, and energetically. So the question isn't, "How old am I?" The real question is, what kind of relationship am I having with my body right now? Am I speaking to it as something that's winding down or as something that's still responsive, still adaptive, still alive? Because the body does not age on a schedule. It ages in response to relationship. And ageless beauty begins the moment you choose to stay in one. So here's my invitation to you. Just for this week, notice the language you use with yourself. Notice the small sentences, the quiet assumptions, the moments where you hesitate out of habit rather than truth. And then, gently, try something different. Try a movement you've been avoiding. Try standing a little taller. Try speaking to your body as if it's still listening, because it is. Not to prove anything, not to force change, just to stay in conversation. Because ageless beauty isn't about time, it's about presence, it's about relationship, it's about choosing, again and again, not to leave yourself early. And if this resonates with you, stay here with me. This is the kind of relationship we explore together, with the body, with aging, with beauty. Not as something to fight, but as something to participate in.